Yeah, so a long while back, I was looking at interventions to improve people's lives. And I knew at that point that cognitive decline was a major problem, especially in terms of, well, productivity and general competence. And so it's a pretty pronounced linear downhill trend on the fluid intelligence front from about the age of 25 forward. And that can decline precipitously in, say, late 70s, early 80s, especially with the onset of degenerative neurological diseases. And I was looking at the literature on cognitive remediation. This is back in the times, about 10, 15 years ago, when there were a lot of online sites that purported to run you through cognitive exercises that could increase or maintain your IQ. There's never been any evidence for that, by the way. It's a pretty damn dismal literature. But what I did find, and I think this is extremely solid, is that if you want to maintain your cognitive function, that both cardiovascular exercise and weightlifting seem to do a pretty damn good job. And maybe that's because the brain is such an oxygen-demanding organ, and other, obviously, it's energy-demanding and resource-demanding in other ways. And if you can keep yourself cardiovascularly fit, interestingly enough, that's the best pathway to cognitive health. What do you recommend in your book, in Outlive, in particular, with regard to the expansion of health span? What do you think, and how do you practice this personally? What do you recommend to people?
So I think that exercise is empirically the most valuable tool we have for both the cognitive and physical components. So let's start with the cognitive, because I think here it was less intuitive. So about 10 years ago, when I really went down this rabbit hole, I had one of my research analysts spend a lot of time going through the literature. So we created a framework where we were going to look at every single intervention and how it impacted executive function, processing speed, short-term memory, long-term memory. Those were the 4 metrics we cared about, because as you point out, those are all bits of intelligence that decline with age. So, we looked at everything. Okay, so we looked at every molecule, we looked at every possible thing that you could think of. And after about 9 months of this, the thing that stood out above all else, beyond any diet, beyond the importance of sleep, and other things that certainly mattered, controlling blood pressure, lipids, etc., was exercise. And I even though I was a lifelong exerciser and loved to exercise, I just couldn't believe it. It seemed so trite that exercise could have such a profound difference on the state of cognition, not just in terms of its performance as effectively a nootropic, but also in its ability to delay, if not outright prevent, dementia. So once we dug into the mechanisms, I think it became clear why exercise is so potent. And it's basically that it is acting on so many different levels. So as you pointed out, it's acting at a metabolic level. The brain is such an energy-demanding organ. As you know, and maybe your listeners do, it weighs about 2% of your body weight, and it's responsible for 20 to 25% of your energy consumption. So therefore, anything that disrupts that is catastrophic. So when you look at the improvements in glucose disposal, insulin sensitivity, and all metabolic parameters, exercise is the most important tool we have there. When you look at the reduction of inflammation, vascular health improvements, again, exercise stands alone. When you look at the production of neurotropic growth factors such as BDNF, again, exercise is basically a drug for neurons. And so I think I eventually came around after a year or so to realize that, again, as simple as it sounds, exercise is such a potent tool. And you look at the brains of people who exercise a lot, and you can see far less damage, not just microvascularly, but in terms of brain volume loss over time.